Good morning, everyone. We are going to begin our media availabilities. We are now joined by Alan Gustafson, crew chief for the number 9 Napa Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports. Alan, your team won the regular season. You guys have momentum heading into the playoffs. How do you keep that momentum up? Is there anything different that you guys have planned for the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we want to keep performing at a high level, and you just always try to find a little bit extra. And the details, when the playoffs come, and it's a long 10-week push, but you just go all in and just a little bit more effort, a little bit more detail, a little bit more focus, or at least try to save some extra throughout the regular season, so you have that opportunity. So we're ready to go, and we certainly think we're in a position to do that, but a long way to go and a lot of races.
Awesome. We'll go ahead and open it up for questions. If you have a question for Alan, please raise your hand. We'll start here with Bob, and then we'll go to Jordan.
Bob Hawkers, Fox Sports. In the past years, you would probably have all your cars scheduled out for the playoffs, like this car's going to this track, this car's going to that track. Do you have that at all with this car?
No, what you're describing, we typically would have our cars laid out, and we typically would try to add some new cars to the fleet and put the latest and greatest stuff we could on them and make sure they're as lean as possible. And that all's kind of gone, really. I mean, with inventory and inventory restrictions, you just basically schedule the cars which is most effective and efficient for shop flow, more so than performance.
Jordan?
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. A few questions for me. When the season you've had, where you've won the most races, you won the championship by the regular season title by a wide margin. If you don't go on a deep playoff run or even make it to Phoenix, do you look at it in terms of it's a disappointment, or do you just don't look at it because of the format? It's so unpredictable.
No, I mean, regardless if we don't make it to Phoenix, I think I would be disappointed in any circumstances. So, that's always the goal, and there's steps along the way. That things you want to achieve and benchmarks you want to make, and certainly we've checked quite a few of those boxes. But ultimately, regardless if we didn't get points, bonus points from points position and only made it in on points, or Ryan Blaney's position or Austin Dillon's or whoever's, if we were in that same position, our expectation would be to make it to Phoenix, and certainly in the position we're in now, it's certainly the case.
And then the second question is a little bit outside the playoffs. I'm doing a story on the Hendrick Pit Crew combine and how they put the teams together. Have you ever seen the combine itself and what the crew guys go through to become a part of the pit crew at Hendrick?
You're talking about the tryout combine?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen that, not in a while, but yes. It was kind of revolutionary. Time frame's hard for me to kind of think about, but probably 10 years ago or so, we did a lot of recruiting from colleges, and would bring guys in that had really no car experience or racing experience whatsoever, and transition. When I started, everybody on the pit crew worked on the cars and had some either shop job or road job, and we started to transition out of that and bring in more dedicated athletes and kind of go about the opposite direction. Instead of having guys who knew how to work on cars and train them how to pit, we got guys who knew how to pit, train them how to work on cars. So we've got some great pit crew members, team members out of that program, and it's been pretty successful for us. So, and it's a good opportunity for people to get involved in the sport.
We'll go to Dustin and then to Greg.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. A couple things. This week, NASCAR announced the DVP clock going from 6 to 10 minutes. So what does an additional 4 minutes mean, and what kind of an impact can it or can it not make?
Yeah, I think Charlotte would be the best example where we had, minor damage. We had a tie rod that was bent, and the bolt was twisted in the mount, and we didn't get it out in time. So I think in those situations, you'll have an opportunity to make those repairs and at least be back in the race. I don't know that in extreme situations it's going to make a big difference. But I do think in some situations, that's the best example I have, is you just have a car that basically has no damage, be out of the race is probably not the best thing in the world. So that was their point to rectify that. And yeah, I mean, it's not going to encompass all cases, but I think it certainly opens up some opportunity.
And a couple things in regards to car inventory. So I know you talk about it's about being efficient and more for the shop. Obviously, this car is going to get beat up this weekend, but if you get through it fine, how quickly could this car get turned around? I mean, is this something that in the second round it could be the first race, Texas, or is it something like this car wouldn't be ready till the third round, till Vegas or a Homestead?
I mean, it's just based on your circumstances. If that was the only car we had, we could race it next week, right? I mean, you just how deep do you want to go into it, and how far do you want to take it apart, and what do you want to do? And you don't have to do those things. I mean, you could ultimately, if you don't have damage, you could take it to the car wash and wash it off and race it again. So it's up to you and how deep you want to take it. So ultimately we could turn it as quick as we wanted to turn it. I mean, to me, we don't do that because we don't need to, and it just would make life more difficult. I mean, if you're, I don't know BJ's situation, but I'll just use BJ as an example. If you're BJ and you probably don't have the full allotment of inventory, then certainly his circumstances are much different, and he's handling this different ways. For us, and I'm sure every car in the chase, they have full allotment of cars, so there's really no reason to turn it fast. That's just going to put more strain on your workload that you really don't need. So yeah, you could pick a race and we could have it ready. It's just, do you want to?
And the last thing is, if you have an accident and with the inventory, how does, if you lose a car, just having to do significant repair to a car, it kind of falls out of the weight of maybe the rotation. How does that impact the team, in the playoffs? Is it if you lose a car in the first round and maybe you can't get something back until the third round, when you get to that point, does that really hurt a team, or how does that challenge a team if you lose a car from an accident or have severe damage?
I don't, we're quickly approaching a number that it's not going to matter, because you're going to have enough cars to make it with just running each one of your cars a single race. So I don't think that it's super significant at all right now. I think, it was really more of a hindrance earlier in the season when you had less inventory. When you have the inventory now, in a few races here, we'll be able to run every race to the end with the cars we have. So I don't see where it would be anybody should be any bind. I mean, yeah, if you go on a streak and wreck a car, total a car every one of the first three races, then your inventory is probably in trouble, but you're going to be out anyway. So.
Greg?
Hey, Greg Engel, Forbes. How does that, Dustin kind of touched on this and you kind of touched on this, but you've obviously had a winning strategy before in these playoffs. How does that new car play into that strategy? Does it change it, or do you still draw on things that were successful last time?
Yeah, I mean, I think just the biggest difference is we would always try to line up some technological advancements that made our cars run better, or you'd want to unveil some upgrades throughout the chase, throughout different rounds, so you could continuously, get into a better and better position in comparison to your competition. So now, obviously, that's not happening. So it's still about refining the car to best operate, for the track conditions, and knowing how to take those same parts and pieces and make them a little better. So it's the difference now is you're just still trying to, instead of coming out with something new or something that you've evolved to, you're just trying to find a little bit better way to put the mousetrap together than the competitors, and try to get the balance of the car just a little better, and better over the run. So it's different, but I think similar.
And finally, Chase has a lot more emotions in the race car than we ever see. How hard do you have to work to keep those in check, or are these a good enough thing that you kind of leave him alone, and you don't think it are a detriment?
I don't really have. I mean, I don't know how to. Maybe 0.001% of my time goes to trying to regulate him. He's super easy. He handles himself very well. I mean, he's a human being. I mean, certainly there's things that affect him, and You know, as friends, we talk through some of those things, and you know, just try to be there either to listen or, you know, lend my advice. But yeah, I mean, he's by far the easiest driver I've ever been around. I mean, it's not even close to comparison.
Are there any other questions for Alan? All right. Thank you. Good luck this weekend.